Remember a few years ago when an invasive insect called the spotted lanternfly became somewhat of a celebrity villain? Videos on social media showed people in New York City stomping on thousands of these polka-dotted bugs everywhere. On Saturday Night Live, Bowen Yang even dressed up as one.
I'm a spotted lanternfly. I don't care what experts say. I'm gonna eat your crop. Scientists are concerned about my high reproductive capacity because I'm a player. That's why people call me a player.
So what's happened with the spotted lanternfly since? We have an update and assess the likelihood of them making it to the North Country on today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Pearsall Wealth Management at UBS Wealth Management USA, subsidiary UBS AG, member FINRA SIPC, 1 Broad Street, Glens Falls.
Hey, I'm David Summerstein. It's Thursday, November 13th. First up, the business community is praising Governor Kathy Hochul's decision to delay the All-Electric Buildings Act. The Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce said people are facing too many affordability challenges as it is. The law would have mandated that newly constructed single-family and low-rise buildings use all-electric heating systems and appliances, replacing natural gas and propane, which contribute to climate change. But environmentalists and some lawmakers are speaking out against the delay. Democratic Assemblyman Al Sturpey says carbon emissions are still increasing and catastrophic weather events are already happening.
For people who continue to say, I share the long-term goal of decarbonization, there is no long-term anymore. We're there. We've got to do something now.
Governor Kathy Hochul is facing a stiff re-election challenge from North Country Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Stefanik attacked the delay as an attempt to hide the legislation's effects until after the election. Hochul is on the lookout for a running mate for that election. John Campbell with the New York Public News Network reports.
Hochul needs someone to run alongside her next year since current Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado is now running against her. 4 sources with knowledge of the search say she's honing in on a handful of candidates from New York City. Among them is State Assemblymember Brian Cunningham of Brooklyn, who says he's interested.
If the governor offered an opportunity to serve with her as her lieutenant governor, it's certainly something that I would accept, something I would do. But ultimately, in the day, the governor has to make that decision.
Among the others under consideration are Brooklyn DA Eric Gonzalez and a pair of former assembly members, Robert Rodriguez and Walter Mosley, both of whom now serve in Hochul's administration. In Albany, I'm John Campbell for the New York Public News Network.
State police arrested a veteran Watertown police lieutenant this morning for allegedly using force against a juvenile male. State police say a guardian brought the juvenile to the police station in September to talk to an officer, but the young man ran and hid in nearby bushes. After he was retrieved, 57-year-old Lieutenant James Spencer approached to help, but police say the juvenile kicked off his shoe, striking Spencer near the groin. Spencer then allegedly used force to bring the young man to the ground to handcuff him. Spencer is charged with second-degree harassment and endangering the welfare of a child. He was scheduled to appear in court this morning. The spotted lanternfly doesn't bite or sting, but clouds of them can be a nuisance, and they like to devour vineyards, so they pose a threat to New York's multi-billion-dollar grape and wine industries. The bug still hasn't made it to the North Country, and our cold seasons may make an infestation less likely. But its presence could be inevitable because of the way it travels, says Brian Eschenauer. He works for Cornell University's Integrated Pest Management Program. Eschenauer says the spotted lanternfly follows transportation corridors by laying eggs on vehicles.
Highways and also rail lines. There's some evidence that the eggs masses that are very resilient may be laid on rail cars, and when they're in a siding in a new area in the springtime, those egg masses can hatch and you can have a new population in a new area.
So we're spreading spotted lanternfly, humans.
Yes. We say spotted lanternfly is an excellent hitchhiker. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to us, it gets on our vehicles and our equipment, and we can spread it into a new area. So we really want to be cautious about that. And if you're visiting an area that has spotted lanternfly, it's it's important to check your vehicle and anything you're traveling with that may have been outside.
Now, we've heard that, the worst impacts of this insect is on the grape and vineyard and wine industry because they're attracted to those plants. Is that in fact what's happening? Is it as bad as it was predicted?
Yeah, early on, before we knew about the impacts this might have in North America, a couple of vineyards were lost in Pennsylvania. Spotted lanternfly likes to go in late in the season. It weakened the vines, and they didn't come back in the spring. So several acres of vineyards were lost in Pennsylvania. Penn State has shared a lot of their information, and we feel we're prepared for it. But we are starting to see the impact of it in our vineyards in the lower Hudson Valley. And it just means those growers have to scout and look for one more pest out there. And this is especially late in the season, even after harvest, they need to monitor their fields and then make control measures if necessary.
And that's like pesticides, essentially, right?
Yeah, they're using insecticides. Spotted lanternfly is relatively easy to kill, so we have insecticides that are used just where needed. Often it's just around the margins of the vineyard, and often they're low impact.
Now, spotted lanternfly hasn't been detected in the North Country yet, north of Syracuse and Albany. Is it like inevitable that it will be, or is it too cold up here? What's the prognosis?
Yeah, I would suspect that spotted lanternfly will be introduced to the North Country region, but it does have a long life cycle. So it doesn't hatch until May, just about the time when the leaves are starting to emerge from the tree, when this is a sap feeder, so it needs active sap in plants. And it starts to hatch then as a really small insect, just a little bit bigger than a tick. And as it feeds, it develops through several growth phases until finally in July it becomes that adult spotted lanternfly that has the spots, orange underwings, and that makes it relatively noticeable. Then it doesn't start laying eggs consistently until the end of September. And it can lay eggs then until a hard freeze. Well, in the North Country, we could have a frost in September or early October that might cut the life cycle of the spotted lanternfly short. The spotted lanternfly's favorite host plant is called the tree of heaven, and that's a weedy species that can be found throughout much of New York State. However, we don't see it in the mountains of the Adirondacks, and that's a good thing, and that makes it even less likely that we would see spotted lanternfly in those areas.
We saw a couple of years ago, videos, and I was even in New York City and actually saw like people like, stepping on spotted lanternflies and killing them. And, what should people do if, in the places where it's maybe a little bit warmer in the North Country along eastern Lake Ontario, or in Watertown closer to Syracuse, if you see a spotted lanternfly, they're very distinctive, what should you do?
Yeah, first we want to get that reported because our New York State Agriculture and Markets is following the advance of spotted lanternfly. There might be a grower around there that would want to be notified. So one way to report it is before you try to stomp it or capture it, is take a picture, because they can jump and they're pretty adept at moving around pretty quickly. So take a photo to document it and note your location and then report it. And you could go through your local extension office, or like on our Cornell IPM website, we have a link to the reporting portal for New York State Ag and Markets. So report it, and then if you can kill that spotted lanternfly, that would be great.
Brian Eschenauer is a senior extension associate with Cornell University. He studies the spotted lanternfly at Cornell's integrated pest management program. You can see a map of the spotted lanternfly's current range in New York State on our website, ncpr.org. We have lots more news there as well, ncpr.org. Music today by Wrightson Tongue of Edwards and Paul Myers of Colton. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.